Happy nighttime. It's Joyful Hermit. Well, I went off to my exercise, I call it, to this facility where they had what's called open court. And I borrowed a paddle from the place and uh, went to the courts that they said were for that and found some people. Everyone younger again. There might have been a player that was maybe 12 years. Maybe she was 60 or something. Anyway, um, but we just practiced playing games. And of course, I'm terrible. And it was interesting how this is part of my mission. I didn't realize how, just even like in today's psalm, it was, I live to praise you, Lord. I live to praise you. So I realized that when I was there, some people were, didn't want to play with me, of course, because I'm not very good. And old, they assume, well, she's old and what have you. And then OLL came every now and then, Old Lady Luck. So I had some lucky shots, and that's sort of like, whoa. So then, one of the younger women wanted to help practice, because I was having trouble with serves. And of course, I'm in total pain during this stuff. And my knee has started to swell up, probably from being on it more. So I'm going to have to ice it, but I realized that I can be myself there. I'm using an alias, a different name, so that a couple of people I do know there, won't be embarrassed, or if something does happen, an accident, or um, I just never know, because I'm been called a lightning rod for trouble by a priest years ago, and it's sort of true. If something can go wrong, it tends to go wrong with me. And if somebody, I've learned now recently by asking and getting feedback, even unasked, that I am perceived as different, as quirky, as whatever, all those labels that I've discussed before, but I am embracing it. None too early and none too late. I am embracing it and accepting that I don't know how it is or what it is that I do. But the more that I am omnia pro Deo, living for God, all for God, I just come into a different mode of really enjoyment. However, like this one older woman, um, when I had my luck, a couple of lucky shots, and that changed for her, because she was convinced I'd been a tennis player, and I said, no, it was just luck. It strictly was luck. But you're strong, and you look like you really know how to play. And then she didn't want to practice with me later. So we women can be tricky, but I'm trying to just keep praying for people, and because it was just luck. And then a couple of the younger people were willing to practice with me later, and to have me included in a, if you call it, a round robin play. And I had a couple more lucky shots, but I also had plenty that didn't even get into the right corner when you serve and things. So it was an interesting process. And there was a young man that I played with, and we had to rotate. And my being old, of course, is a hindrance uh, for how people perceive on top of it. And I did mention to, I think, a couple of the younger women, when they wanted to talk a little bit, when they were taking a break, that I'm doing this to try to build up muscles, that I've really been mostly in bed for 5 months. So, and before that, it was a year, but I didn't mention that. But so it is quite a process. And I'm bracing myself that tomorrow I may be in horrible pain and nausea again, because that happened to me before. I was okay the night after I tried this sport, and then I was wiped out. But I'm going to try to persevere and and trust in the Lord and live my life for God. Live my life for God. That was that psalm. So this young man was playing with me, and as we would rotate around, and of course I was making plenty of errors. Um, Only a couple of times I had OLL, old lady luck. But this young man was sort of aloof to me, really aloof, and I started to get a little unnerved, a little bit like, oh no, here we go. I'm going to be perceived negatively or as a hindrance playing the sport. And I just started to pray within myself and thinking about how does God love? I thought of that. I'm always trying to think of that now. And I thought, God wouldn't be put off if someone was a little bothered by me. God wouldn't, if I were in God's stead with this person remote from me and aloof and wary about me, God wouldn't back away. God would love that person and would inwardly say a prayer. And one time no one could see me. I made the sign of the cross. Bless everyone here, I said inside of myself in the quiet. Well, with this one particular young man, I thought just keep loving him as God would love him. Keep loving him as God would love him. Well, I was worn out. I had to leave early before all these other people were leaving. And Love and Mercy were in the truck in the back seat waiting. And I got out there and got them out and to go to the bathroom before we headed home. And out comes this young man. He had been out and was coming back into the facility, but I was out there with the dogs. He immediately, oh, I love that kind of dog. This young man came alive to Love and Mercy. And he says, you have dogs, And it was just an immediate thing that the Lord put us together out in this parking area. It's nighttime. He had played. I was more than done in and had to get home way past my bedroom. It was 8 o'clock. And so he got to talking about how he liked that kind of dog. And then I talked to him more outside and said, he just opened up and said how he was trying to get a new job. And I said, well, I'm a person of prayer. I'll pray for you. I'll ask God, pray and ask if God would favor you with that job. And he's going to have an interview next week. Please pray. His name's Chris. But everything totally turned with him through these dogs, through my dogs. He loved the names, and he says, well, I'm a person of prayer too. And he has an injured knee, not the same one as mine, and it was like God melted whatever it was that separated us from some kind of a commonality of spirit and soul. And we had a nice conversation, and he told me about his dog, showed me a picture. He can't have his dog with him now because he's in a one-bedroom apartment. But I'm excited. I'm excited about how God used this old hermit there at this pickleball facility in a way that I didn't anticipate. But it's like the psalm said, let me live for the Lord. Let me live in praise for the Lord. Live in praise for the Lord. And don't forget to keep practicing and pondering and asking God, help me to love as you love. Because I was ready to sort of put a little block up. It was awkward, but that's all melted away, even though I'm old and probably 40 years older, 45 years older than this young man. And so it was an eye-opener for me that God is using us no matter how old we are or where we are. And my spine is a mess. My spine is hurting me, my neck. But he used me there. And that has been a thrill. And I'm praising God that prayer, asking God to help me love as he loves, and persevering. And God brought this young man around to maybe we had an interesting conversation, and we also talked about, and he brought it up too, one step forward. Don't take steps backward, but keep making steps forward. And I mentioned this thing that I'd always thought about, that life is either one step, our decisions, our situations, our lives, our thoughts, everything is either a step toward heaven or a step back toward hell. And we choose with every thought, with every breath, with every action. And that goes along with loving as God loves. That's a choice. And we ask God to teach us. Like yesterday, reading in wisdom, said God will instruct you. God will instruct you. Learn wisdom. God will instruct us. And so it's not really learning this pickleball. I think God has us out in places. Yes, I need to build up muscles so that I'm not bedridden without needing to be bedridden. Giving it my best to be getting up. And but when we're up, then what? Then comes these opportunities with strangers, much younger, to learn to love as God loves. So we just never know, and I'm just thrilled. I'm praising God, praising God. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. That we just never know. We never know what events will pull together. And so there were persons who were wary and stayed off, and then things warmed up. And praying for Chris. That's the person that I specifically asked God, help me love this person as you love him. Because he was really wary of me. And I think God probably brought me that lucky hit, that shot, because that also caught this man's attention that, well, maybe it is okay playing with this old lady. And, I said, well, it was just luck. It was truly. But it still was God. God laid this thing out like a game board here in this game facility. And so we'll just see what happens with that. But I do hope that the Lord blesses this young man with this job that he would like. That would just be wonderful. And he needs the income. So we'll just see what happens. I'm excited about this learning to love as God loves. It's opening up um, the unexpected. It's opening up the unexpected. God bless His real presence in us, and let us keep loving to learn how to love as God loves. Sleep well.